Export. The term export means shipping in the goods and services out of the jurisdiction of a country. The seller of such goods and services is referred to as an exporter and is based in the country of export, whereas the overseas-based buyer is referred to as an importer. In international trade, exports refers to selling goods and services produced in the home country to other markets. Export of commercial quantities of goods normally requires involvement of the customs authorities in both the country of export and the country of import. The advent of small trades over the internet, such as through Amazon and eBay, have largely bypassed the involvement of customs in many countries because of the low individual values of these trades. Nonetheless, these small exports are still subject to legal restrictions applied by the country of export. An export's counterpart is an import. History. The theory of international trade and commercial policy is one of the oldest branches of economic thought. Exporting is a major component of international trade, and the macroeconomic risks and benefits of exporting are regularly discussed and disputed by economists and others. Two views concerning international trade present different perspectives. The first recognizes the benefits of international trade. The second concerns itself with the possibility that certain domestic industries or laborers, or culture could be harmed by foreign competition. Process. Methods of export include a product or good or information being mailed, hand-delivered, shipped by air, shipped by vessel, uploaded to an internet site, or downloaded from an internet site. Exports also include the distribution of information that can be sent in the form of an email attachment, a fax, or can be shared during a telephone conversation. Barriers. Trade barriers are generally defined as government laws, regulations, policy, or practices that either protect domestic products from foreign competition or artificially stimulate exports of particular domestic products. While restrictive business practices sometimes have a similar effect, they are not usually regarded as trade barriers. The most common foreign trade barriers are government-imposed measures and policies that restrict, prevent, or impede the international exchange of goods and services. Strategic barriers. International agreements limit trade in and the transfer of certain types of goods and information, for example goods associated with weapons of mass destruction, advanced telecommunications, arms and torture, and also some art and archaeological artifacts. Barriers. Tariffs. A tariff is a tax placed on a specific good or set of goods exported from or imported to a country, creating an economic barrier to trade. Usually the tactic is used when a country's domestic output of the good is falling and imports from foreign competitors are rising, particularly if there exist strategic reasons for retaining a domestic production capability. Some failing industries receive a protection with an effect similar to a subsidies in that by placing the tariff on the industry is less enticed to produce goods in a quicker, cheaper, and more productive fashion. The third reason for a tariff involves addressing the issue of dumping. Dumping involves a country producing highly excessive amounts of goods and dumping the goods on another foreign country, producing the effect of prices that are too low. Too low can refer to either pricing the goods from the foreign market at a price lower than charged in the domestic market of the country of origin. The other reference to dumping relates or refers to the producer selling the product at a price in which there is no profit or a loss. The purpose and expected outcome of the tariff is to encourage spending on domestic goods and services. Protective tariffs sometimes protect what are known as infant industries that are in the phase of expansive growth. A tariff is used temporarily to allow the industry to succeed in spite of strong competition. Protective tariffs are considered valid if the resources are more productive in their new use than they would be if the industry had not been started. The infant industry eventually must incorporate itself into a market without the protection of government subsidies. Tariffs can create tension between countries. Examples include the United States steel tariff of 2002 and when China placed a 14% tariff on imported auto parts. Such tariffs usually lead to filing a complaint with the World Trade Organization (WTO) and, if that fails, could eventually head toward the country placing a tariff against the other nation in spite to impress pressure to remove the tariff. Barriers, subsidies. To subsidize an industry or company refers to, in this instance, a governmental providing supplemental financial support to manipulate the price below market value. Subsidies are generally used for failing industries that need a boost in domestic spending. Subsidizing encourages greater demand for a good or service because of the slash price. The effect of subsidies deters other countries that are able to produce a specific product or service at a faster, cheaper, and more productive rate. With a lowered price, these efficient producers cannot compete. The life of a subsidy is generally short-lived, but sometimes can be implemented on a more permanent basis. The agricultural industry is subsidized in countries such as the United States, Japan, and many nations located in the European Union. Critics argue such subsidies cost developing nations $24 billion annually in lost income, according to a study by the International Food Policy Research Institute, a DC group funded partly by the World Bank. In 2000, the U.S. spent $32.3 billion on the agricultural industry. The European Union spends about $50 billion annually, nearly half its annual budget on its common agricultural policy and rural development. Exports and free trade. The theory of comparative advantage materialized during the first quarter of the 19th century in the writings of classical economists. While David Ricardo is most credited with the development of the theory in Chapter 7 of his Principles of Political Economy, 1817, James Mill and Robert Torrens produced similar ideas. The theory states that all parties maximize benefit in an environment of unrestricted trade, even if absolute advantages in production exist between the parties. In contrast to mercantilism, the first systematic body of thought devoted to international trade emerged during the 17th and 18th centuries in Europe. While most views surfacing from this school of thought differed, a commonly argued key objective of trade was to promote a favorable balance of trade, referring to a time when the value of domestic goods exported exceeds the value of foreign goods imported. The favorable balance in turn created a balance of trade surplus. Mercantilists advocated that government policy directly arranged the flow of commerce to conform to their beliefs. They sought a highly interventionist agenda, using taxes on trade to manipulate the balance of trade or commodity composition of trade in favor of the home country. Export strategy. Export strategy is to ship commodities to other places or countries for sale or exchange. In economics, an export is any good or commodity transported from one country to another country in a legitimate fashion, typically for use in trade. The four key pillars of a successful export strategy. Internal 1, export readiness assessment of a company and gap analysis with recommendations how to address the change required. Internal 2, export readiness assessment of a product including benchmarking with similar products that are currently successfully traded on target markets. Technical characteristics. Packaging and labeling. External 3, research of 220 countries and the world's major trade channels to find target markets. External 4, develop export strategy to enter the selected above target markets that will include such considerations like transport, partnership, key distribution channels, pricing, volumes, advertising, etc. Export strategy, overview. Advantages of exporting. Ownership advantages are the firm's specific assets, international experience, and the ability to develop either low-cost or differentiated products within the contexts of its value chain. The locational advantages of a particular market are a combination of market potential and investment risk. Internationalization advantages are the benefits of retaining a core competence within the company and threading it through the value chain rather than obtain to license, outsource, or sell it. In relation to the eclectic paradigm, companies that have low levels of ownership advantages either do not enter foreign markets. If the company and its products are equipped with ownership advantage and internalization advantage, they enter through low-risk modes such as exporting. Exporting requires significantly lower level of investment than other modes of international expansion, such as FDI. As you might expect, The lower risk of export typically results in a lower rate of return on sales than possible through other modes of international business. In other words, the usual return on export sales may not be tremendous, but neither is the risk. Exporting allows managers to exercise operation control but does not provide them the option to exercise as much marketing control. An exporter usually resides far from the end consumer and often enlists various intermediaries to manage marketing activities. After 2 straight months of contraction, exports from India rose a whopping 11.64% at $25.83 billion in July 2013 against $23.14 billion in the same month of the previous year. Export strategy: disadvantages of exporting. For small and medium enterprises with less than 250 employees, selling goods and services to foreign markets seems to be more difficult than serving the domestic market. The lack of knowledge for trade regulations, cultural differences, different languages and foreign exchange situations as well as the strain of resources and staff interact like a block for exporting. Indeed, there are some small and medium enterprises which are exporting, but nearly 2/3 of them sell in only to one foreign market. The following assumption shows the main disadvantages. 1. Financial management effort. To minimize the risk of exchange rate fluctuation and transactions processes of export activity, the financial management needs more capacity to cope the major effort. 2. Customer demand. International customers demand more services from their vendor like installation and startup of equipment, maintenance or more delivery services. 3. Communication technologies improvement. The improvement of communication technologies in recent years enable the customer to interact with more suppliers while receiving more information and cheaper communications cost at the same time like 20 years ago. This leads to more transparency. The vendor is in duty to follow the real-time demand and to submit all transaction details. 4. Management mistakes. The management might tap in some of the organizational pitfalls, like poor selection of overseas agents or distributors or chaotic global organization. Export strategy, ways of exporting. The company can decide to export directly or indirectly to a foreign country. Direct selling and export strategy. Direct selling involves sales representatives, distributors, or retailers who are located outside the exporter's home country. Direct exports are goods and services that are sold to an independent party outside of the exporter's home country. Mainly the companies are pushed by core competencies and improving their performance of value chain. Direct selling through distributors. It is considered to be the most popular option to companies to develop their own international marketing capability. This is achieved by charging personnel from the company to give them greater control over their operations. Direct selling also gives the company greater control over the marketing function and the opportunity to earn more profits. In other cases where a network of sales representative, the company can transfer them exclusive rights to sell in a particular geographic region. A distributor in a foreign country is a merchant who purchases the product from the manufacturer and sells them at profit. Distributors usually carry stock inventory and service the product, and in most cases distributes deals with retailers rather than end users. Evaluating distributors. 1. The size and capabilities of its sales force. 2. An analysis of its territory. 3. Its current product mix. 4. Its facilities and equipment. 5. Its marketing policies. 6. Its customer profit. 7. Its promotional strategy. 8. Its policy against the abstract data protocols. Direct selling through foreign retailers and end users. Exporters can also sell directly to foreign retailers. Usually, products are limited to consumer lines. It can also sell to direct end users. A good way to generate such sales is by printing catalogs or attending trade shows. Direct selling over the Internet. Electronic commerce is an important means to small and big companies all over the world to trade internationally. We already can see how important e-commerce is for marketing growth among exporters companies in emerging economies, in order to overcome capital and infrastructure barriers. E-commerce eased engagements, provided faster and cheaper delivery of information, generates quick feedback on new products, improves customer service, accesses a global audience, levels the field of companies, and support electronics data interchange with suppliers and customers. Indirect selling. Indirect exports is simply selling goods to or through an independent domestic intermediary in their own home country. Then intermediaries export the products to customers' foreign markets. Making the export decision. Once a company determines it has exportable products, it must still consider other factors, such as the following. 1. What does the company want to gain from exporting? 2. Is exporting consistent with other company goals? 3. What demands will exporting place on the company's key resources, management and personnel, production capacity, and finance, and how will these demands be met? 4. Are the expected benefits worth the costs, or would company resources be better used for developing new domestic business? Export strategy, export promotion. United States. The U.S. Department of Commerce provides U.S. companies the opportunity to promote their products and services free of charge. To do so, the Export Yellow Pages is published online and in print and is delivered to embassies, trade centers, consulates, and associations worldwide. The California Centers for International Trade Development have 13 offices throughout California. Each CITD is hosted by a local community college and provides a variety of free or low-cost programs and services to assist local companies in doing business abroad. These include one-on-one technical assistance and consulting, market research, training and educational programs, trade leads and special events. United Kingdom. The UK Trade and Investment, formed in 1999, is a government body that assists British companies with their exporting needs. Challenges. Exporting to foreign countries poses challenges not found in domestic sales. With domestic sales, manufacturers typically sell to wholesalers or direct to retailer or even direct to consumers. When exporting, manufacturers may have to sell to importers who then in turn sell to wholesalers. Extra layers in the chain of distribution squeezes margins and manufacturers may need to offer lower prices to importers than to domestic wholesalers.